Hi, I'm Rob Burgundy, and welcome to the News with Rob. How we doing, folks? We 5x5. See you all in the chat there. Thank you for being here. All 60, packed house. Today we're going to go over some of the news and headlines around the world that affect you, whether you understand it or not. And we'll talk about how they may affect you. Everything from crisis at the border to North Korea wanting more nuclear weapons. Got the 5x5. Good. Got my coffee. Do you have your coffee? Make sure you have your coffee and cigarettes. Smoke them if you got them. If you don't smoke, good for you. Awesome. Awesome. You're doing well. Better than I. Hello, Juan Robles. Neil to no one. Pilgrim first in the house as always. Apparently first everywhere. Prepping artist. Thank you for being here. Tex Tropicana. Howdy. New name. Haven't seen you, but appreciate you being here. Hopefully you get something. I try to make sure everybody learns something on every stream, regardless of where they're at, where they're from. James McMinn, thank you for being here. Backcountry Preps. Hello. Melissa Dunn. Hello. First in the news, the Rob Report with me, Uncle Rob. In the category of you can't make this shit up, new Canadian law requires menstrual products be in all male restrooms on military installations. Yes. I'll say that one more time for those in the back or those just arriving. A new Canadian law requires menstrual products be in all male restrooms on military installations. You also get commentary along with the news. I have issues with giving mentally ill people machine guns. And if you don't think that they're giving mentally ill people machine guns, I submit that anyone who has a machine gun that is not a male that thinks that they need to have menstrual products has a problem. If you're a male, you do not require menstrual products. Now, yes, I do know that you can use certain menstrual products for wound packing, pressure bandages. Now, this is what if they put these in the men's restrooms while I was active military, I would have been raiding these things and stuffing them into my first aid kits because, wound packing. There's that. So, yes. Next in the news, CNN. I'll let that sink in for you. These are the people that say there is no border problem. All right. The left in America. If you're watching from outside of America, let me explain it to you real fast. There is a left wing and a right wing, predominantly media apparatus that all works for the same agendas if you actually dig deep enough. However, the left is usually against the right and vice versa. The left, who says there is no border crisis, has reported that 235,000 migrant encounters occurred last month. This is a little bit off of the 450 to 500,000 that Fox News and the right-wing media are reporting. Either way, that is an estimated, going off of the lower end estimates. That is approximately 3 to 6 million migrants crossing into the United States per year. Over a 4-year presidential term, that is 3% of the population. Keep doing the math and extrapolating it out, and the conspiracy theory of replacement starts to come into effect. An appeals court in California is to ban guns in public places, such as playgrounds, zoos, stadiums, and places of worship, and private businesses. The last time I checked, most mass shooting events, mass casualty events occur in playgrounds, zoos, stadiums, places of worship, and private businesses. Most. So they have gone even further into allowing or opening up the ability for individuals to conduct mass casualty events on the public. So if you are living in California, you may want to beat feet, leave California, because it is on a steady path of decline. They don't acknowledge that people who conduct mass shootings do not follow the laws in the first place, because it is illegal to mass shoot people. So if you're willing to mass shoot people, you don't care if the law says you can't do it over here. The only thing they are doing is disarming the good citizens and preventing them from being able to return fire in the event of a mass casualty event. And private businesses in California you cannot carry firearms onto private businesses unless the actual business owner takes the time out of their day to go, I'm going to put a sign in my window that says concealed carry allowed on my property, which in turn would make them a pretty obvious target for the left-wing radicals who disagree with this policy. So they know people aren't going to do this in most cases. Narcan vending machines are now available in West Virginia, Vermont, Connecticut, Missouri, Kansas, New York, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. Now, I know this is also a divisive topic amongst the general population. Some people are pro-Narcan. Some people are, whoa, it shouldn't be on the taxpayer dime. But at the end of the day, it ignores the underlying decay of our society. Why does such a large segment of the population require the use of opioids and narcotics? I'll just let you think of that and come up with your own answer, because most of you won't like my answer. My answer is America is not as great as people claim America great. If you actually look at the societal breakdown and the growing of the federal government, then and all the rights that you don't have that you think you have that are actually privileges because you either have to pay for them or rent them or lease them or beg permission to exercise your rights, it's not so great. It's not as great as it used to be. That's why they say on the Orange Man side bad, they say, make America great again. And then people say, America's always great. It's the greatest nation on the planet. Okay. The greatest country on the planet would not have such an exceptionally large amount of its population incarcerated, on narcotics, homeless, and impoverished. Whether you like it or not, facts speak for themselves. Was America great? Absolutely. But it has been on a steady decline. And until you are willing to recognize that, and that it is becoming an authoritarian government, I can't help you. Okay? Elon Musk loses a lawsuit in California. California law now allows censorship of hate speech, misinformation, and objectionable content. Again, if we simply look statistically and at history and look at what actually takes place, not liking something and it not being true are not the same. Simply look at the COVID lockdowns, the COVID misinformation. When it's inconvenient for them, they say it's misinformation or flat out lies. But to skip forward 2 years, 3 years, and they say, oh, well, it was true. We just didn't like it because it went against big pharma. So typically, the only information, the information that is shut down the most on a global scale, on the flat Earth global scale, on a flat earth scale or a global scale, whatever shape your planet is that you live on, the information that is censored the most is truth. Ask China. Ohio governor vetoes bill banning gender-affirming care for children. That's right. Regardless of what the people want, you have people at the top that say no. So a majority of Ohioans voted and said, we don't want gender-affirming care. They had the representatives vote, we don't want gender-affirming care. We don't want you to give hormone blockers to preteens. We don't want hormone treatment for little kids. We don't want surgery for little kids. But one guy, Governor Mark DeWine, said, no, we're not gonna ban that stuff. Not in the Buckeye State. So again, America great, a culture where you can surgically alter children because they are convinced by someone that they don't want their penis anymore. Cargo ship that left Vietnam headed to San Diego has been rerouted to Alaska after its lithium battery cargo ignited in the hull. All right. It is now currently 2 miles off the coast of Alaska, where authorities are watching it to make sure, one, it doesn't explode or sink, and two, to see if they can get the fire under control. They are not bringing the ship into port. But your green energy, yes, lithium batteries igniting in cargo ship hulls. All right. Minimum wage has increased to 22 in 22 states. As of the first of the year, minimum wage will increase. Now, for those who do not understand and say, oh, that is a good thing, if you do not understand economics, because one, we're in the middle of a recession, so, or depression, depending on how you want to look at the numbers. If you raise minimum wage to $15 an hour in a vast majority of places, all the people who are currently making $15 an hour because they have some form of a skill will require more money, and it will proceed up the chain. Those making 30 will now demand 40, 45. Those making $50 an hour will demand $55, $65 an hour. It will go up, and the cost of goods will go up because it will cost more for the goods to be produced. It'll cost more for the truck drivers that were making $15 an hour that now demand $30 an hour. It will cost more for them. And all of the prices will be pushed down onto the product, and the products will just cost more. So a cheeseburger that used to cost you $2 when you were making $10 an hour now costs you $4 when you're making $15 an hour. So at the end of the day, you lose money regardless. Who doesn't lose money? The government, because by raising the minimum wage, they also increase the number of tax dollars that will flow into their war coffers and be sent to Ukraine and Israel and places like that. Yes, fuel go, everything will go up. And I will hop in the chat here in a few moments. Now, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has vowed to launch 3 additional military spy satellites, produce more nuclear materials, and called for overwhelming war readiness to cope with U.S.-led confrontational moves, state media reported on Sunday. Additional bargaining power. Kim Jong-un considers his ramp up of nuclear weapons, abilities to project war outside of his territorial boundaries, as a potential bargaining chip in reducing sanctions should President Trump be reelected. Now, I know the left likes to say Trump and Kim Jong-un, they were buddies because he walked into North Korea. He had the balls to walk into North Korea and actually meet with the dictator, Kim Jong-un. But Are you buddies with someone if they're so terrified of you getting back in power that they're ramping up their nuclear arsenal? No, that is somebody who fears you. All right. And fear is not always a bad thing. Fear keeps people in line. Just look at you and your average Americans that you see every day. The fear of government keeps you in line, whether you want to admit it or not. It's the reason you pay your taxes, because if you don't, men with guns will come to get you. It's the reason why you don't rebel against the federal government, because men with guns will come to get you. Window Liquor Purse says, if voting works, the government wouldn't let you do it. Didn't say voting worked. I simply said he worries about Trump being elected. Doesn't matter how Trump would get up in there, whether it would just be part of the charade. The fact is, a world leader fears him being in that position. And I don't entirely agree with or disagree with your statement that voting doesn't work. I mean, the problem is that, again, we have lawyers. Our entire upper political class is predominantly lawyers and politicians. And the politicians are lawyers. They either go to law school or they get a political science degree and they move up. And we have political classes in this family, in this country, that are no different than the kings and queens, lords and ladies of old. And you're not in the club. I said that George Carlin said that. It's one big club and you ain't in it. Tiger 13, that was the news. Now we'll get into the chat. Tiger 13 says, so when it all comes down to is we're screwed. Yes. One way or another, in the long term, the United States is screwed, because the United States, as we know it, no longer exists. And the reason I say this, and here's simple fact, because you will hear Republicans, a lot of conservatives say, America isn't dead, or the federal government doesn't represent me. But at the same time, the conservatives, all right, a lot of conservatives, a lot of people who are pro-Israel will sit there and say that Hamas represents all Palestinians. They'll say, well, if Israel will say the same thing. They'll say, well, if Hamas didn't represent all the Palestinians and the Palestinians really wanted them gone, the Palestinians should have made them leave, should have thrown them out. The same can be said for the United States. If you don't like the government, why is it still there? If it doesn't represent you, why is it still doing the things that it does in your name? Yes, governments represent populations. Welcome to reality. Window Liquor Prepper says, how come you really only get two choices of millionaires to vote for red or blue? There is never a poor American for president. It's always someone in the millionaire club, because they set it up that way. If you actually look, Google how much it costs to run for president. Google how much it costs just to run for mayor in a town, even in West Virginia or Ohio or Pennsylvania. Just for a council member seat, you're going to spend thousands of dollars. You will spend thousands just to get your name on a ballot. That's just the cost of filing the paperwork in one state. Now, if you were to file in 50 states, Joe Plumber for president, it would cost you tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, just for the paperwork to submit, the fee. They've set it up like that. And that's why your next civil war is not going to change anything unless it's an actual revolution where you knock off the tops altogether and restructure the Constitution to put in limits to that. All right? There you go. That's how you fix America. You fix the Constitution. You simply explain, look, these families cannot. You cannot. Must be the one term, no experience required. Everybody likes to talk about, well, politicians have, this guy's the most qualified for the job. What makes you qualified to be a politician? That you've already been a politician, that you know how to play the game? That's not somebody that makes good leadership. All right, just because you know how to play the game, how to file certain paperwork, doesn't make you a good leader. It makes you good at paperwork and playing a game. It doesn't mean you know the fundamentals of economics. It doesn't mean you understand the working class people. It doesn't. Yes. So in order to fix things, Militant Root says, so in order to fix things, we have to hold up our end of the constitutional bargain. Yes, you work for us or else. That's what the Second Amendment is for. It's you do things our way, not your way. And if you do things your way and not our way, bad things happen to you. But nobody wants to talk about that. Everybody wants to talk about Second Amendment for hunting. Yes. People. It's for hunting people. It's literally what it was used for just prior to being written, for hunting redcoats. Tim Spall says, we voted via petition and got a small business owner for mayor. He couldn't afford the charges. He still won. Now the town is actually being fixed. See, starting it down at the grassroots, the militant roots, if you will. And you have to, local government, small local government. If you went back in time to the founding fathers and said, this is what's going to happen, they wouldn't believe you. What is the size and scope of the federal government would not be conceivable to the founding fathers, because they didn't think that people would be dumb enough to let it happen. All right. The U.S. federal government is the largest organization, manpower wise, on the planet. Think about that for a minute. It's the largest organization on the planet. Again, we go back to, if the government shuts down, the government shutdown just means non-essential personnel, people that the government doesn't need, don't come to work. The government doesn't need. Now, a lot of people will well, the military won't get paid. I was career military. We do not need a military the size of the military we got, because our military is all over here stirring everything up when it's supposed to be for defense of the nation. If you actually look at the Constitution, the military is supposed to be for defense of our nation, not for imperial expansion. Whether you like it or not, our government participates in imperial expansionism. Okay? It does. That's a fact. And if you say it doesn't, you are a liar. Not that you don't know. If you say it doesn't, you're a liar. City Prepper says, too much big money in politics, no longer about the people. Exactly. The government has become parasitic. All right. Instead of being symbiotic with the people, it has become parasitic. If we don't feed it, it dies. Okay. It doesn't work together. It's like a cancer. It has to spread. It has to take over more and more, or else it dies. It's literally a virus. Okay. You've got to understand that. We need all the troops. All these troops over here could be over here securing the southern border. But instead, they're out expanding the empire in your name, in your name, making enemies all around the globe, around the world in your name, and you wonder why people hate America. I mean, it is what it is. So until you actually get rid of that and confine it, there's nothing's going to change. It's only going to get worse. Things will get worse. So just prepare for things to get worse. And it's New Year's. So if you're going out to large crowds, large events, if you're going to the ball drop in New York, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware where you shouldn't be. All right. Bad guys from around the world or from home prefer soft targets, and they prefer extravagant targets. All right. So you wouldn't want to be right there next to where everything's at, where the ball's dropping in New York. I wouldn't, even if I went to New York to see that, I would stay at a good distance, 500 meters at least from that, where that ball's at, because that and the peripherals. All right. You want to be able to see things coming. Just keep those things in mind. Again, if you're trying to send a message directly to me, put in something like a smiley face, something that will draw my eye to it, so that I can see that it's specifically talking to me. All right. Or, or there's other chat options down there. I mean, I'm not pushing for it, but Lady Smith, 500 meters. Yeah, that's the minimum safe distance of a typical blast radius. 500 meters. Just in case you were wondering why I came up with that number. We, the Resistance, I served 2 terms on our city council and refused to do any more because I believe in term limits. I spent a total of $10 for the filing fees plus time going door to door campaigning. Yeah, see, well, there you go. That's good. Small town, I bet. You finally got the corrupt mayor out. Good for you. And that's where the problems grow. Like over in West Virginia, in Wheeling, they're the friendly city, but it is woke as hell. There are LGBT murals next to playgrounds. They have pride in the celebrations. I mean, the city is very woke for a population of under 30,000. It went from being a conservative, hardworking class city to one with it's a welfare state with a very large homeless population, numerous homeless camps. Oh, look at that. America is one big bully. Yes. Like our little brother, Israel. And it's not Israel's fault. All right. I will not blame Israel for becoming the bully, simply because of the fact that we see how the cycle of violence works. Statistically speaking, we all know, or most of us know, that if a child is abused, there is a good chance that that child will grow up to abuse its own children or other children. All right. It's this, they call it the circle of violence. An abused becomes the abuser. We see it every day. And I believe that this is what happened to Israel. They were so horrifically abused up in Germany and Poland that the abusees became the abusers. Remember, never again. It'll never happen again. It's a famous Israeli saying, never again. All right. And to back up a never again statement requires a certain mentality that you will do whatever it takes, whether moral or immoral, to make sure that it never happens again. I've heard stories of Auschwitz survivors who, from their children, who stated that my father hated Germans after the war. Not Nazis, Germans. The entire group, even though not all Germans were Nazis, his thinking which is legitimate. You're going to have that spillover, is legitimate, that all Germans knew what was happening to one degree or another. So by proxy, they were all part of the problem. And by proxy, I hate them all. That was his father's thought process on it, which is not an incorrect assumption, because though not all Germans knew that Jews were in death camps, they all knew that their businesses were taken. They all knew that they were all forced into curfews, that they were all forced to wear Stars of David, identifying themselves. They all knew that they had to carry certain paperwork. They all knew that they were being treated like a subclass of person in their society. And they all knew that they were being disarmed. They all knew that they were being rounded up. And very few did anything about it. So, logically, in his mind, even though they were not all Nazis, they were all guilty. It's the same thought processes that Palestinians have against Israel and Israelis have against Palestinians. You have the same thought process on both sides. It's not all Jews who want to harm the people of Palestine. But the Palestinians see the Israeli government that represents, according to itself, its own doctrine, all Jews, doing things to Palestinians over the past several decades. All Palestinians don't want to wipe out all the Jews, but Hamas does. The terror organization Hamas wants to wipe out all the Jews, but the Palestinians don't all want that. And the Jewish government looks at all the Palestinians as Hamas, regardless, even though half the population of Gaza are children, literally half the population. So by proxy, when you're bombing an area, half of your casualties are going to be children, which is strange because next to us, Israel is one of the most highly technologically advanced weapons of war, machines of war on the planet. Their precision guided shit is pretty amazing. All right. You can fly a missile through a window and hit somebody drinking a cup of tea if you don't like them. And so when you hear accidents happening, you have to ask yourself, was it? What's going on in the chat? Welcome to the USA. Everybody. Think about that. 3% of the population in a 4-year term. All right. If that happens every time a Democrat is in the presidential seat, how long until the population is like 50% illegal migrants? And then they're already in the police force. They will be letting them into the military, And so will the U.S. military, you see it all the time, will the U.S. military fire on American civilians? Well, when they're not composed of U.S. civilians, you bet your sweet ass. Militant roots. Israel has some problems. Yes. As the United States, if we're going to police people, we should police people. If that's what we're going to do, then that's what we should do. We are the proverbial big D in the locker room when it comes to militaries. For the most part, you do have a significant swinger over in Russia and a significant, all Asian jokes aside, because I have Asian children, it's big-ish in China. Okay, don't laugh at that because we all know the stereotypes. But if we're going to police force, we could police. We could simply say, okay, we're going to drop our big D on whoever starts a problem, whether it be Israel or Gaza. All right. We're going to tear down that wall. We're going to get rid of the open air prison that the Israelis created. You guys are all going to live in peace. And the first person to do something shady is going to suffer the repercussions of this big going straight up your tailpipe. All right. We could do that if we really wanted to. But the problem is, though we have a big D, we got little tiny pebbles down here. Ain't got the balls to swing that mug around. And that's why there are so many problems in the world. We'd like to stir shit up, but then shit, we'll destabilize. Now, part of the problem, which I don't like to get into conspiracy theories. Yes, I do. But we all know over here is the Suez Canal that runs through Egypt. Suez Canal and the Panama Canal, the two largest, fastest gateways for commercial goods to get through from one ocean to another ocean or from one sea to another sea for stuff to move without going all the way around Africa. Did you know, here's where we come with another Rob's famous did you know, is that Israel in the 1960s developed a plan to where the Suez Canal's here, they can bypass it by making their own canal that starts in the down here in the Red Sea and comes up boop to the Mediterranean. You know, the only problem why they haven't been able to create their own shipping canal that would completely render the Suez Canal pointless is because the fastest route would be straight through the Gaza Strip. I'm sure I'm wrong that nobody would bomb the shit and start shit over here in the Gaza Strip just to be able to have a $9 billion a year profit coming in from a canal that would go through the ravaged area. No, money is never behind anything. Never. Of course, that would also at the same time pull that money away from Egypt because Egypt gets about $7 to $9 billion a year in revenue from ships transiting through. All right. So if Israel had their own, well, at least half of that money depends on, if that other one got shut, God forbid it got something bad happened to it and it got completely shut down, but they'd get at least half of the revenue, especially if it was just a little bit cheaper, they might get all of it. But imagine that. Yes, Lady Smith, imagine that. Pilgrim said nuke inbound. Actually, there was discussion between the U.S. government and the Israeli government on how nuclear warheads buried in the ground would expedite the building of the new canal from the Red Sea up into Israel through Gaza Strip and into the Mediterranean. Literally putting nukes in the ground, several and blowing the ground out. Okay, Tiger 13 says on Friday it was reported 5 to 6 big trucks crashed the Arizona border and they couldn't stop them. Anyone? I've heard this, but I haven't been able to find it. It's like there's a media. I don't know. It's not in any of the major news sources. None of them have it. And of course, we all know Operation Mockingbird, where all of the big ones tend to do what they're told one way or another. But it wasn't even like foreign media. Okay, it wasn't in Al Jazeera. It wasn't in BBC. It wasn't in Sky News. I've scanned all those for those headlines I gave you. Just because they can doesn't mean they should. That's actually life. That's a good yes. Scott C says it was fake. Okay, that was fake news. But you're going to have, you'll have a lot of that. There was a lot of, I was reading in some of the foreign ones of increased cartel violence. There was a shooting at a party, 3 gunmen They were targeting rival cartel leadership. And I was reading about that the guy they were targeting did not make it. So there's that. There's all kinds of things. If you actually take the time to go through, and some of it's just mind-numbing, the things that they'll talk about. But there's all kinds of interesting stories around the globe every day. Yes, Militant Root says, are you sure, Scott, are you sure it was fake, or is it what they were telling us that it was fake? I honestly don't know. I haven't looked into it. I will take a look again, and if it is, I'll make a post on here. Well, that's actually pretty clever. Ship your belongings across the border and walk across the border. Yes. There are numerous ways to get into and out of countries that people just don't, we just don't think about it because we never leave. And that is one of the reasons why I was always kind of an opponent to building a wall between us and Mexico, because there may be a time when we need to go that way. And if we do, walls just don't keep people out. They keep people in. Okay? So think about that. I see Dynamite's in the house somewhere. He deleted somebody's message. It must have been very rude for him to do that, because I typically allow everything for the most part, except for rude shit. All right? I'll try not to be rude to you. I may hurt your feelings with some truth, but I won't be blatantly rude to you and call you names. So it must have been something along those lines. So Dire Prep, if you want to repost in a by rewording, we'll take a look at I'll take a look at your comment, and we'll talk about it. Oh, you pressed the wrong button. Well, Dire Prep, put your thing back up there, because Dynamite got an itchy trigger finger. Dire Prep, if you're still watching, redo it. Go ahead, put it up there. He must have pushed something. Okay, yeah, no, Dynamite, it probably got blocked by YouTube or something, and so he was probably trying to approve it and push the wrong button. No, he's not fired. Nobody's fired. I only fired one person on this channel recently. So, Dire Prep, go ahead and throw the exact same thing back up there. We'll see what it says. Because now I'm curious. When I see that flash up on my screen, I'm curious, because I like to know what you guys have to say. Hey, Tim Spa, thank you. In the bar right now. Awesome. Have a happy new year. Be safe. Don't drink and drive. All right. If there's a cop watching, you just send the sober guy out first. Don't drink and drive, though. Send the sober guy out first to act like he's drunk, get in the car and drive away, so that way when they chase him, everybody else can head the other way. But don't drink and drive. All right. What else we got in the chat here? But yeah, there's all kinds of. Okay, Dire Prep said, I said Poland is claiming a Russian missile entered their airspace. Their air defense is up to par to allow that. They are also they're asking. Well, I don't know when that actually happened, like how many hours that has transpired, but I know that Russia was asking Poland to clarify what an object was that was in Polish airspace, but close to the Russian border. And so it may have been as they decided not to answer. And Russia said, well, if you don't want to answer, we're deeming it as a threat. It could be, because you could play that a whole bunch of different ways. Well, we thought it was a threat to Poland, so we wanted to make sure that we shot it down. But yeah, I did see that. I was reading news reports out of Russia that they were monitoring something in the sky over Poland and asking Polish authorities to clarify what the object was in their airspace. Yes, Russia is demanding a UN Security Council meeting after the attack in Belgorod. Things are escalating. Yes, things will get worse. We slow rolled into World War II. We will slow roll into World War III. That's things very rarely happen overnight. Like everybody thinks, well, we hopped into World War II overnight. You know, the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and that was it. No, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. There were other things. All right. There were things that we were doing and supplying, just like now, to other nations. There were smaller incidents in years leading up to that. You know, well, we're going to go over here and bomb Pearl Harbor, all the way up to that. Okay. So there's that. But yeah, there. If you look, see, I always say, follow the money, find the money. There's money makes shit happen. You know, now that I tell you about the hold on, let me actually get the name of it for you so you can do your own research on it. Oh, okay. Then the Ben Gurion Canal. That's the name of it. It's the Ben Gurion Canal Plan. Smitty Smith says, I saw this morning on MSN news stuff. They are posting places not to go in case of nuclear war. Mostly large cities and the Dakotas. Yes. Large cities and the Dakotas. Do you know why the Dakotas? Large cities, it's because you get the most bang for your buck, so to speak. But the Dakotas are because that is where we have a lot of underground nuclear weapon silos. And if you can take those out in a first strike, then the ability for us to return is diminished. Okay. And people are like, well, you know, well, it probably wouldn't affect you. You can bury silos alive. Yes, you can. You can knock out their ability. But there's a lot. So there's that. But yeah, the Dakotas, like Magic Prepper would not be here anymore. No more late nights with Magic. Okay. And I like his channel for the most part. Order from Chaos, Dan Phillips. Order from Chaos. That was the previous channel that YouTube didn't like a lot of my content. OFC Nation, Order from Chaos. All right. And that's where he gets that, Dan Phillips. Counter force, not counter value. Yes. And if you notice that all these minimum wage increases that I was talking about in 22 states, it's predominantly in very liberal run cities. All right. That they're implementing that. All right. So, I mean, it's further proof that they don't understand the supply and demand and capitalism and how it all works, you know. So it just devalues our currency even faster. But nobody will learn until it gets back to gold and silver and precious metals and lead, copper, firearms. Okay, although you would not. One moment. Let me see. Oh, Scott C says, Warlord, have you posted the older videos on Rumble somewhere? No, not yet. Those videos were actually they don't exist. I have to redo them. If you're talking about the Insurgent series, yeah, they're gone, like entirely. And I'll have to actually remake all those individual videos on the Insurgency series, how to be an insurgent. But there are a lot of other channels out there that talk about that stuff too. I mean, I may have went to a little more details, but you can find the information if you want it. If you really want it, You're going to end up on lists, but y'all should be used to that by now. Tiger says Nellis Air Force Base. The odd test site is in Hill, Douglas. Yes, if you live near military bases, you would notice shit going down rather first. But in, Red Dawn Readiness, how you doing? Captain Coral. Captain Coral says UK and Germany said to be declaring war on Houthis in coming hours. Well, we will keep our eye on that. And like I said, it's funny because sometimes you'll hear Houthis and sometimes you'll hear Iranian-backed rebel groups. The chicken video is your favorite. That's my anti-kid propaganda shit. My kids all love that video. They all like that. No matter how much I pretend to be a chicken, I'm not a chicken. See, and in Yemen, I don't know if you realize this, but in Yemen, there are two separate factions that run Yemen. All right, the Houthi rebels, the rebellion, actually has control of the military, and which makes the original government now the rebels. You see how that kind of flipped? So, the rebels and the official government are now flipped in spots because the rebels have become the legitimate government because they run the military and all the infrastructure. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you are in charge of all the shit, then you are the government. Okay. So they keep calling them rebels when in fact the rebels are the old government regime that is still fighting them, even though they pretty much lost most of it already. Okay. So that's why you got to watch you got to pay attention to how the media spins shit. And I say this all the time. Read between the lines, go back in time and see how shit actually is. So that way you can understand where people are coming from and the terms they use and how they flip the terms and twist the terms as they go. All right. When you look over there at the Israel right now, it's the same thing. The Bible says Israel, and this place, if I look at the map, it says Israel. But if you look at the maps further back, it doesn't say that because that was the Ottoman Empire. And guess what? The United States called Virginia. Then they split, and there was another state created called West Virginia. Are West Virginians still Virginians? Not if you ask them. They'll tell you, I'm West by God Virginian. Well, in the Ottoman Empire, they had their empire broken into smaller states. And guess what they called the state that is Israel on the map now? They called it Palestine, which is where the name comes from. Okay. And so they were Palestinians until the influx of migrants that decided they wanted it all. But I'm not biased. I'm factual biased. I love facts. All right. And if the facts support Israel, I would say so. And if the facts support Palestine, I will say so. And if the facts support the United States, I will say so. But when they don't, you will hear the truth coming out of the pie hole, even if the media that you watch everywhere else tells you something completely different. Because they're getting paid millions and millions of dollars to tell you that shit. And I'm doing this shit for free. Except for the $2 that Dome Seeker gave me. Thank you. Thank you for the Dome Seekers, the super chat. That's my first super chat. Appreciate it. That was awesome. But yeah, I will always do my best to give you the truth. And when it seems like I'm being biased, it's because the facts support a certain truth. Okay. And I'm not one of those that say, oh, there are his truth or her truth. There is the truth, nothing but the truth. Okay. Oh, Scott Siege is in here. Not yes, there's an earthquake in Indonesia, I believe. I was reading that. Am I right? Indonesia, 9.0 earthquake. Uh, Another interesting thing right after this war declaration thing, it came out about MGM Grand shooter. I haven't looked into that, but now I will. You're giving me more stuff to look up. Appalachian Mercantile. You go ahead and watch the replay, not a problem. Thank you for being here. Yeah, super chat, Cherry Popper. This admin wants war with Russia so bad. Why? Here's a fun fact. The U.S. has, what was it? It's like 500,000 or so homeless people in our country. This is based off of global reports, not reported per se by the U.S. Oh, we've got this many. It's like outside influences looking in. And these people, the Russia people, they got like 2,500 on average homeless people. So apparently they're taking care of their people a little bit. And remember, they're not communists anymore. So there's that. But, you know, I look at people's based off of their values. This big orange area over here, anti-woke, doesn't play the, oh, well, you taught your toddler, you know, from the age of 2 that he's a she, and when he turns 9, you're going to cut his genitals off because you wanted a girl. They don't play that shit over there. All right. Hey, thank you, B-Lem. Appreciate that. I mean, you've had a little heart. They don't play that shit there. All right. They're anti-woke. They play that shit over here. They play that shit down in here. But all the people around the woke are our bad guys, are our enemies. No. Stop thinking of things as left versus right. Stop thinking things as Christian versus Islam versus Jew versus. Start thinking of things as woke versus anti-woke. Unless you want woke to win. Because until you start standing up for your values, for the anti-woke values, even if you have to go to jail and have a $250 fine because, you know, you caused a disorderly conduct or disturbance in a public place for cussing out a transgender person for using the wrong bathroom, pay the fine. You'll be out $250 or $500, but you will feel great. You'll be able to tell all your friends, yeah, hey, Bob, you went to jail this weekend. Yes, I did, because this 6'4" dude come out of the fucking bathroom, and out of the girls' bathroom, and I gave him a bunch of ration of shit and threw a brick through his car window. I'm not advocating that. This is just hypothetical. I'm just saying you'll feel great about yourself. Your friends will be like, yeah, you're the man, dude. Your buddies at work would probably even pitch in to help you pay the fine. Just saying. You know what? That's shit the left does. That's shit the woke does. Oh, yeah. Look at Kamala, how many people she bailed out. They come together. All right. Hypothetically speaking, yes, this is for entertainment. We're dynamite with the disclaimer. This is all hypothetical. This is a work of fiction. This is a work of art. All right. We do not condone violence, but if it should so happen to happen, it's what happens. All right. Hey, I appreciate. Okay, let me hop it down in here in the chat. An EMP would do more than a nuke in the long term. Oh, you're damn right. One EMP would do far more damage than one nuclear weapon going off. It would. That's just a fact. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and share it. Yes, thank you. Because a lot of people can't grasp that. But again, it doesn't have to be an EMP. You can do the same things that an EMP does with a computer virus. Look at some of the shit we've done to Iran with computer virus. Just a few lines of code. And it doesn't take it doesn't take these, when you hear Russian hackers or Chinese hackers, people envision these bunches of people sitting in the high-speed building with all the computer screens up. It takes one dude. It takes one dude with one of these that has knowledge and go, boom. The I love you bug. Remember that? It's like one dude, two dudes, I think it was, as a joke. And like just caused mayhem. All right. But yes, an EMP would be bad, would be really bad. If you haven't ever seen it, go watch Amerigeddon. It's a total, I don't even want to say B flick, C flick, created by Alex Jones. And you can find it on YouTube. It's like an hour and 20-minute long movie, hour and 30-minute movie. It's entertaining, but especially if you haven't seen it yet, if you have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch the helicopter fight scene near the end. Had me like, what? Are you kidding? Oh my God. It was just so ridiculous. All right, because neither of them were military helicopters, but they were pretending that they were military helicopters. And I mean, I understand that there were budget restrictions probably, but still, yeah. Yes, somebody said something's not going to be like Corral. 2024 is going to be, he said it is going to be late. 2024. 2024 is just going to be okay. The fall of America is up here on the hill. It's the snowball, and it's coming. It's not even like a tenth of the way down the hill. And as it gets closer, it gets bigger and worse and worse. And it's the snowball effect for a reason. And at the end, you're like Wile E. Coyote. We're going to be like Wile E. Coyote. They're going, oh shit, with a little sign up that says help, or something like that. Thanks for checking the sock drawer there, Papa's Farm. I appreciate you. Prepping artist, how you doing? 1 second after made into a movie, that'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty good. But yes, an EMP would be absolutely devastating for a large segment of society. All right. Let me specify. It's going to be the people it's going to impact the worst are the least productive of society. So be comforted in that, because if you are, if you live on the government, because of the government, and then the government not there no more overnight, you are going to have problems. All right. If you know how to swing an axe, dig with a shovel, operate a hammer, fix stuff, whether it be automotives, equipment, build houses. If you work in a trade or have in the past and have you don't even have to be a master of anything. If you are simply a handy-ish person, you will have a lot easier time in a post-EMP grid down permanently forever, at least long-term type of scenario, because you have value. You have value. You will be seen as more valuable. You'll have valuable people and unvaluable people. And in a post-SHTF, a lot of tribalism based off of just those two things, just valuable and not valuable, contributed, didn't. And these people will try to wipe out these people, because these people will start the shit. Because when you have no skills and you have no, you've never learned to contribute, you will expect these people to keep feeding you like before. But if there's no government making them, these people will say no. And when they tell these people, You never tell your girlfriend, your significant other, no, you can't have that. They get upset. These people will come unglued, and with no federal government to make these people give them stuff, and to make these people not act like asses, these people will show their ass, and these people will put them down. Just an opinion. D14. Hey, I ain't seen you in a while. I live, but my eyes ain't the best. I live for the sake of the species, as there have been people of the past who never had kids but worked to make a world for others' kids. Yeah, I mean, and that's awesome. That provide something. You're a provider in some way, shape, or form. You're helping the advancement. Right now, 50-year mechanic, right there, bam, knows more than most people, has forgotten more than most people know at that age. But what was I going to say? I was talking about D14s. Right now, our population in the United States is below sustainment levels. Think about that. That in and of itself will reduce the population over time. All right. We're below replacement. It means we have more people dying every year than are being born every year. Okay. And this will cause a reduction in the population, which may be a reason why they're allowing all these migrants in to eventually help bolster their pockets, because when more people are dying than are being born, statistically, there's less money flowing up, and it's all about money. But if you look at some of the causes of why, well, you have this new DINK movement and weird stuff, dual income, no kids. If you don't know what a DINK is, I just found this out like last week, what a DINK was. The morals, back to the decay and foundation of our country. The morals of our country are just gone for the most part. They're gone. Maybe not in you, maybe not in your house, but when you walk out of your house and leave your property, you are in an environment where the old morals aren't there. They're not. And I know a lot of us don't like that, but we can't just say it's not happening, because it is. And kids aren't reproducing, our people aren't getting married. They're not having the 2.5 kids or 4 or 5 kids like me. 4 confirmed. I think there's another one out there, but I haven't been able to find it. Long story. But I'm always looking. That's why on that DNA stuff, one day a kid will show up at the door. The DNA thing says that you're my dad. Yeah, I've been looking for you for like 20 years. Hi, give me a hug. Make them feel wanted, embrace them. And if you look at the LGBT trans moves, these people can't reproduce. So the only way that, and that's impacting our society as well, because we're saying, oh, we're going along with this, and it's actually bringing the head count down. All right. And so the only way for them to even grow as a society, as a population, is to adopt or influence other children into their lifestyle. All right. So think about that. They can't reproduce. A man and a man, or a woman and a woman, can't reproduce. So they have to spread somewhere. That's why it's an ideology. Liberalism is a mental disorder. And you know what? I get religious people in here sometime. Not that I'm not religious, because y'all know I am religious. But they'll like to say, especially like the war over in Israel. They'll say, well, the Bible says Israel is. Yeah. The Bible also talks about the Antichrist. Okay. And how it'll turn good bad and bad good, especially at the end. So if at the end, things that used to be bad are now good, and in all of who's watched Left Behind? Who's watched that series? I guarantee a lot of y'all have the Left Behind series. Israel was not a friendly place for Christians in those movies or anybody else who believed in God. It was the seat, the foundation. It was where the Antichrist was like, that's my shit now. So think about that when you hear people saying, "Oh no, Israel in the Bible, that's supposed to be the devil turns bad shit good and good shit bad, and steals names of other places." So Israel ain't as Israel should be. I'm just saying. Houthi leader said they would attack U.S. warships if America attacks Iranian-backed militant groups. That's one thing that they have. That's not good for U.S. warships. But at the same time, do you see how they stick up for each other? Conservatives don't do that shit. We don't stick up for our beliefs. Though they do. I mean, right or wrong, they do. I'm just saying. Tel Aviv is woke as hell. Root Seller says. Root Seller, I don't think I've ever seen you in my chat before, but you are correct. Tel Aviv is, I want to get the quote right. One of the most LGBT friendly cities on the planet is the quote from. Oh, it was one of the big news agencies. Yes. In fact, if you look at what happened in October in Israel, that thing that was attacked, the supernova, had a large LGBT attendance, had idols, statues of like Buddha and other gods, and they were all dancing. And it was legitimately on the Sabbath for the Jewish people when they were supposed to be at home or in prayer, stuff like that. And like I said, I saw that and I was like, that reminds me of the 10 Commandments when Moses came down from the mountain and they were worshiping the false calf and he just fucking killed 3,000 of them. I'm like, that's history rhyming like a son of a gun. But Milton versus God don't like that. And apparently he sends paragliders in today's day and age. Just saying that. I mean, it's all right. Well, we've been on here for an hour and almost 13 minutes. I appreciate you all being here. Thanks for the super chats. Those of you didn't have to, but I greatly appreciate that. That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, really, that's awesome. I can shove it in my sister's face now because like a couple of years ago, my sister was like, "You and it's stupid YouTube." Now I'm going to be like, "Hey, sissy," I'm going to take a screenshot. I'm like, there's my stupid YouTube. But yeah, I appreciate Steve. All thanks. I appreciate all of you for being here. 100 people in the house. Share this, get it out there. And again, after this is over, put in the comments, comment on the video, anything you want to know or would like to know more about, issues, anything like that. And I'll read through the comments. I try to read through them all. I'm a little challenged technologically sometimes, so I might not see it. And if I don't, bring it up in a chat next time, and I will try to research it and answer it because I do not know everything, but I know I can find almost everything if I put my mind to it and focus. All right. So this is the best chat on the internet. Well, thank you. Thank you all. All right. Great actionable points. That's what I like. I like to, I hope somebody learned something. All right. And if you didn't, then you weren't paying attention. All right. All right. Thank you all for being here. God bless. Have a safe and happy new year. All right. And I will try to be back on tomorrow. Try. There's no try. There's do or do not do. I will be back on tomorrow with something for you. Okay. Will. Promise. You have my word. Until then, stay safe. Have a happy new year. Hug your little ones. Hug your loved ones. Tell them that you love them. because tomorrow is not promised. Okay. I'm out of here.